I know a lot of people are fired up about that. I was just talking to Rick Ballou about that as he was leaving the studio. A lot of people are fired up about that. And look, I'm never going to be confused for a giant baseball fan, right? I am casual at best when it comes to baseball. But I will tell you, much like the Winter Olympics with hockey, boy, this World Baseball Classic has been great. I think it's been great for the sport, for casuals like me. I was locked into the U.S. and Dominican Republic. I thought, honestly, Italy, Venezuela was really good. What Shohei did with Japan before they were eliminated. And now you have the culmination tonight with the United States and Venezuela in the winner take all of the World Baseball Classic. So it has been a lot of fun to watch, and we will see ultimately what happens this evening. I did see the U.S. team show up in USA hockey jerseys representing the gold medalists that won for the United States last month. So, boy, if they could win in hockey and then win tonight in baseball, that would be quite the deal for the United States of America. I'm not expecting that in the World Cup in men's soccer later this summer, but boy, what a trifecta that would be, no doubt about it. So we'll talk a little World Baseball Classic. We'll keep you updated on the U.S. and Venezuela. We'll keep you updated on March Madness. Again, the first four in Dayton, the first two of those games have tipped off this evening. We will also keep you updated on the NBA. The best team in the NBA, the Oklahoma City Thunder, are down in Orlando tonight. Last check, the Thunder were up 12. Boy, they're really, really good. They're like 54-15 on the year. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has been absolutely incredible. So we will certainly keep you updated on what is happening with Orlando and Oklahoma City. And then also, we're going to talk a little Jaguars tonight from a standpoint of things they have done, or maybe better yet, not done in the National Football League free agency period. That you look at other contenders in the AFC and what those other contenders in the AFC have been able to accomplish. And we saw another deal today where one of those contenders, the Denver Broncos, get that much better offensively by acquiring Jalen Waddle from the Miami Dolphins. So a lot to get into with you. Tuesday night, Hacker After Dark. We're with you till 10 o'clock, and we're glad you're spending part of your Tuesday evening with us. Guest lineup tonight looks like this. We have John Shipley, Jaguars on SI. He is going to join us coming up here in about 15 minutes or so. We'll take a look back at week one of free agency. What do the departures of Devin Lloyd and Travis Etienne mean for the future of the Jacksonville Jaguars? We'll also talk about the arrival of running back Chris Rodriguez and what does all of this movement mean heading into the NFL draft, which is just over a month away in Pittsburgh. So John Shipley, Jaguars on SI, about 15 minutes away. Also towards the top of the 9 o'clock hour, Neil Blackman of Saturday Down South. He's also the host of the Florida Basketball Hour podcast, as we will take a deep dive into Florida head coach Todd Golden. We mentioned this last night. Todd Golden has already accomplished something that Billy Donovan did not accomplish in Gainesville. You know, as good as the Billy Donovan back-to-back title teams were 06-07, obviously, those teams were not consecutive number one seeds. The 06 team was a 3 seed that won the national title. The 07 team was a 1 seed that won the national title. Florida had never had back-to-back number 1 seeds in the NCAA tournament until now, last year and this year under head coach Todd Golden. So we'll talk about Florida as they prepare for the NCAA tournament with Neil Blackman of Saturday Down South and the Florida Basketball Hour. That comes up later on tonight, right around 9 o'clock or so here on Hacker After Dark. Every night on HAD, we do kick it off with a big deal of the night and Aaron Williams. Let's do that right now.
Time now for the big deal of the night.
What's the big deal?
What is the big deal?
No big deal.
It is a big deal.
On Hacker After Dark.
So I mentioned this right off the top. We have spent so much time here in Jacksonville focusing on the guys that are leaving, right? ETN, or I guess Achan. That's going to be weird. It's going to be a while before I stop calling him ETN. So for right now, it's still Travis Etienne. Devin Lloyd, and then to a lesser extent, Greg Newsome, Dewey Wingard. We know the guys that have left. Primarily Lloyd and Etienne. And we know the only arrival of outside free agency is Chris Rodriguez, the running back from the Commanders. But you look at the teams Jacksonville was competing with in the AFC last year, right? You talk about the Patriots and the Broncos and the Texans and the Steelers and the Bills and all of these teams. And when you look at it, it's like, man, every one of those teams has done something that on paper looks pretty good for their roster. I mean, let's take a look at Pittsburgh, the champions of the AFC North. All they did was go out and add Michael Pittman Jr. to a wide receiver core that already includes DK Metcalf. They got arguably the best corner in free agency in Jamel Dean from Tampa. Still have some questions at quarterback, obviously, but when you have DK Metcalf on one side, Michael Pittman Jr. on the other, that's pretty good, right? Pat Freiermuth and you know, all those guys, Darnell Washington at tight end. It's pretty good. You look at Buffalo going and adding a DJ Moore, and they desperately needed a number one wide receiver. Now, Buffalo has also lost some pieces in free agency, no doubt. But when you go bring in a DJ Moore to go with Josh Allen, that gets your attention. You look at Denver today going out and getting Jalen Waddle. And now all of a sudden you look at the Broncos with Jalen Waddle, with Cortland Sutton, with Marvin Mims, Evan Ingram still in the mix out there. That is a formidable unit with Bo Nix at quarterback. The Texans getting David Montgomery. That is an upgrade over what they had at running back a year ago. I'm still not a big fan of their wide receivers outside of Nico Collins, but keep in mind, the Texans are banking on Tank Dell being back and being 100%. We didn't see Tank Dell at all last year due to the fact that his knee basically exploded at the end of 2024. But you see videos of him running around doing his thing. If he's back to what he was, and before he was getting hurt, he was doing a lot of good. You add him with Nico Collins, with David Montgomery, with Dalton Schultz. I saw the Texans just went out and got Wyatt Teller in free agency today, the three-time Pro Bowl guard from the Cleveland Browns. That's noticeable, what Houston has done. You know, the LA Chargers have added some pieces, primarily on the offensive line. They brought in a starting center from Washington that had been around for a while. And keep in mind, the Chargers basically get two big-time free agents back that were already on their team. They played the entirety of last year, essentially, without both starting tackles, Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt. Theoretically, both of those guys will be 100% this year. So you get your two starting tackles back. You had a brand new starting center with a lot of experience. You've added some pieces on defense. I mean, every contender in the AFC, you lump Kansas City in, who missed the playoffs. All they went out and did was get Kenneth Walker, the Super Bowl most valuable player. Kansas City's offense, better than it was when the season ended. Denver's offense with Jalen Waddle, now better than it was when the season ended. Buffalo, I mean, just adding DJ Moore on paper makes their offense better than it was when the season ended, and Buffalo was still good enough to beat Jacksonville on Wild Card Weekend. Pittsburgh getting Michael Pittman Jr., getting Jamel Dean. Their roster is better than when the season ended. You would argue Houston's roster is better. If David Montgomery is an upgrade, which I believe he is, you go out and add a former Pro Bowler and Wyatt Teller on the offensive line, they probably have a better roster. And then you look here in Jacksonville. There's hope, right? There's optimism. We hope the roster's better. We're optimistic that Liam Cohen and James Gladstone and Tony Baselli can do their thing in year number 2, much like they did in year number 1. But if you only deal in facts, right? If you only deal in reality, right now, what the reality is on this St. Patrick's Day on March 17th, as we enter the heart of the NFL offseason, is of all those AFC contenders last year, Broncos, Chargers, Patriots after adding Romeo Doubs, Steelers, the Ravens get Trey Hendrickson, right? The Texans, the Bills, all of them. Could you argue every AFC contender from 2025, their roster is better now than when the season ended, with the exception of Jacksonville? Yeah, you could probably argue that. No, I would push back a little bit because I still think Jacksonville is going to have a very good team. I'm very optimistic to see what they do with their 10 or 11 draft picks, rather, in this year's draft. They have a lot of draft capital, too, potentially making a trade for a veteran. Still have the opportunity to do some things with the roster, but there's no doubt sitting here right now on the evening of Tuesday night, March the 17th at 8:12 Eastern Standard Time, if you look at the 8 or 9 best teams in the AFC from 2025, and you say, is this team better now than they were 2 months ago? You would probably get yeses across the board, with the exception of Jacksonville. Now, will all these free agent signings work out? Who knows? DJ Moore could be awful in Buffalo. Jalen Waddle could be awful in Denver. Kenneth Walker could have hit his peak in Seattle. He could plummet back down to planet Earth in Kansas City. Romeo Doubs could be an afterthought in New England. Could. A lot of coulds. But again, dealing in what we know, and what we know is going off of what happened last season, every team in the AFC has added a playmaker to their offense. Romeo Doubs is a playmaker for New England. Kenneth Walker is a playmaker for Kansas City. Michael Pittman Jr. is a playmaker for Pittsburgh. Jalen Waddle is a playmaker for Denver. David Montgomery is a playmaker for Houston. The Jaguars have added Chris Rodriguez, who had 930 yards rushing in 3 years in Washington. I don't think it's anything to be overly concerned about yet, but I did think, and I was thinking about this driving in tonight, it was at least worth mentioning. I mean, look at the Jaguars' own division, right? I am not a fan of the Tennessee Titans. I would imagine most of you are not fans of the Tennessee Titans. And I do think the Titans overpaid for some guys this offseason. But there's no doubt when you bring in Alontae Taylor from New Orleans and Wan'Dale Robinson from New York and Franklin Myers from Denver and all these guys, you know, Jermaine Johnson from New York, the Titans can't help but be better. Now, maybe that's relative because they were horrific last year. But clearly, they've brought in guys that one would assume will make them better. Houston was running out there in the playoffs with Nick Chubb, with Christian Kirk. I mean, just wasn't working on offense. Nico Collins is back. He missed the playoff game, the loss to New England with a concussion, remember? You get Tank Dell back. You bring in David Montgomery. You get a former Pro Bowler on the offensive line today in Wyatt Teller. They're better. Indianapolis, well, I don't know about that. Indianapolis gave Alec Pierce $29 million a year. The dude had less than 50 catches last year, I think. I mean, that's a lot of money for a guy that basically does one thing well. If you want to run 40-yard go routes your entire career, Alec Pierce is pretty good at that. How good is he on 3rd and 9, catching a 12-yard pass for a first down to move the chains? Well, he hasn't proven he's very good at that yet. That was Michael Pittman, who the Colts lost. The Colts also are giving $44 million per year to a guy who blew out his Achilles here in Jacksonville and Daniel Jones. So I will grant you that Indianapolis in the division is also the team that has not improved, in my opinion, this offseason. But Tennessee's gotten better. I still think Jacksonville is overall a better roster. But Tennessee couldn't go down any further. They're one of the worst teams in the league. Give them credit. They have gotten better on paper. And I think Houston's gotten significantly better with David Montgomery, the return of Tank Dell, and what they've done on the offensive line. The Jaguars are going to be relying on a lot of rookies this year. And a lot of guys that we didn't see a lot of in 2025. Travis Hunter, Caleb Ransaw, potentially Wyatt Milam. As I said, they got 11 draft picks in April's draft. You know, you re-signed Quentin Morris. You re-signed Dennis Gardeck. Guys that overachieved last year. Matt Dickerson. Can they do it again? I think they can. Obviously, the Jaguars think they can. But post-draft, you're going to see a lot of these power rankings coming out. You're going to see a lot of these roster evaluations coming out, how this team fared over the NFL offseason. Just prepare yourself because the national narrative on Jacksonville is not going to be positive. Like I've laid out here for the last 10 minutes, there is a perception, one that I, quite frankly, find hard to disagree with, that a lot of teams in the AFC got better on paper. All we can go on is on paper until September. But a lot of teams did get better on paper, whereas the Jaguars, on paper, regressed. Because you arguably lost your best offensive player from last year, not named Trevor Lawrence, and you arguably lost your best defensive player last year with the departures of Etienne and Devin Lloyd. And while you were losing your good players, your rivals in the conference were accumulating Romeo Doubs, Kenneth Walker, Jalen Waddle, DJ Moore, Michael Pittman Jr., David Montgomery, so on and so forth. It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. But there is no doubt that Jacksonville is going to have to rely on a lot of the unknown, whereas a lot of their rivals in the conference spent big money to bring in guys to help their given organizations. Let's continue the Jaguar conversation. John Shipley, Jaguars on SI. John does a terrific job covering the Jacksonville Jaguars, has done so for years. The guy puts out a tremendous amount of content. Let's review the offseason so far and everything that's transpired. What does that mean moving forward, particularly into next month's draft for the Jaguar organization? My buddy John Shipley, Jaguars on SI, joins us next on a Tuesday night here in Northeast Florida. We're glad you're with us till 10 o'clock on Hacker After Dark.
He's 1010XL's tackle eligible.
You a football player?
And he's always open.
Now go out and catch the ball for a change, all right?
All right. Leon Searcy on XL Primetime.
Let's go!
Noon to 2 weekdays on 1010XL.
Awaken 180 weight loss. Awaken 180 weight loss. Hacker here. And look, I hear from a lot of people. Hacker, tell me about Awaken 180. What's the story with Awaken 180? And the story is simply this. There's no shots. There's no needles. There's no medication. They don't suppress your appetite, right? That's what you always hear about. Well, I'm just not hungry anymore. You know, how's that going to work out for you when those shots go away, when that medication goes away? Guess what? Your appetite comes back. With Awaken 180, you get knowledge. You don't take the easy way out. You get knowledge to not only lose weight and keep it off now, but keep it off for years to come. With the coaching that you get with the great folks of Awaken 180, there is a reason so many people on this radio station talk about them, have lost so much weight with Awaken 180 weight loss. I lost over 100 pounds. Go to awaken180weightloss.com. That's awaken180weightloss.com or call 844-346-1800. Guys, if it's time in your life to do something about the way you look, it was for me, so do what I did and get hooked up with the great folks of Awaken 180 Weight Loss.
Baloo here for Smoonez Vision. Why Smoonez Vision? Well, I've been with Dr. Neil Smoonez now since I got back to Jacksonville in 2006. 37 years of experience he has. Smoonez Vision is a family organization that focuses on personal high-quality medical and surgical eye care. Dr. Catherine Smoonez is fellowship-trained in cornea and cataract surgery and all refractive surgery. Combined, that's 30 years plus in laser eye surgery. Visit SmoonezVision.com today. Care you can see.
If you're the kind of person who likes to compete and win, listen up. Purple Heart Pools is hiring sales professionals and project managers to start immediately. Purple Heart Pools is a veteran-owned company building some of the most impressive custom pools in Northeast Florida. And they're looking for people who want to grow, earn, and be part of a winning team. If you've got the drive, work ethic, and the leadership mindset, search Purple Heart Pools and apply today. Equal opportunity employer.
Patrick Young here, a.k.a. the Big PY, and you know I love my Florida Gators. Now you can hear my Gator basketball instant reaction following each Gator Hoops game. Look for my takes on the social channels of 1010XL. Brought to you by VanguardSportsLeagues.com.
My Gate Rewards members, this deal is just for you. Right now, grab any two 12-ounce Red Bulls and get two of your favorite Roller Grill items for just $1. When you need a boost, Gates got you. See store for details.
I used to dread going to the dentist. Every visit felt like a sales pitch with constant upselling, surprise fees on my bill, and I could never get in when I needed to. But Harbor Dental Care? Totally different. They saw me the next day, gave me honest pricing up front, and even set me up with a payment plan I could actually afford. No pressure, no surprise charges, just kind people who get it. If you want to experience dentistry the way it should be, book your appointment today at harbordental.care. That's HARBOUR dental.care.
I'm here with Danny Van Sickle, director of the Electrical Training Alliance. Danny, tell me about your program.
Hey, Rick, we're a 4-year electrical apprenticeship. Our students start out making over $40,000 a year and right now make over $90,000 a year, including benefits. There is no tuition or student debt. You just have to apply and get accepted.
Did you say no tuition and no student debt?
You heard that right, Rick. Once you're accepted to the program, your only cost for the books and the course fees. About $800 a year.
That sounds like an amazing opportunity. How can I learn more?
Just go to etajax.org and you can apply there.
Apply by May 14th.
Instant Keys is turning 25. A quarter century of saving the day when your keys mysteriously vanish.
Seriously, it was just in my pocket.
Or when that remote fob decides to quit working.
The dealership is such a hassle.
For 25 years, Instant Keys has been the go-to locksmith service for car keys, house keys, transponders, re-keys, and even high-tech smart locks. You don't have to go to the dealer. Instant Keys comes to you. For honest, professional locksmith service, use Instant Keys.
Are you looking for a place to outfit your truck or van? It's Catlin Truck Accessories. For 105 years and 4 generations, Catlin is the name you can count on. This is Keith Catlin, and we know trucks and vans too, from Lear toppers, ladder racks, van shelving, strobe lighting, roll and lock bed covers, and everything in between. If you want quality products and great customer service, there's only one name. It's Catlin.
Who can you count on? Count on Catlin.
For 105 years, you can count on Catlin.
When it comes to glass, you don't want average. You want flawless. Duval Glass and Mirror has transformed homes and businesses across Jacksonville for over 35 years. Frameless showers that wow. Mirrors cut exactly to your style. Fogged or broken glass replaced. Decorative tabletops. Windows replaced or repaired to stand up to Florida storms. All backed by a 100% guarantee. Visit DuvalGlass.com for your free quote. There's only one name for glass and mirror around these parts. It's Duval.
Got a dent or a scratch that needs fixing? San Jose Collision in Mandarin offers expert auto body repair and works with all insurance. Family owned and locally trusted. San Jose Collision in Mandarin.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Focused, fueled, fearless, Farah. Here's another call on the 1010XL hotline, driven by Key Buick GMC, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty.
Back here on 1010XL at 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. Week 1, NFL free agency in the rear view mirror. I think it was underwhelming for some Jaguar fans, maybe a shock for some Jaguar fans, although we tried to warn you about Devin Lloyd and Travis Etienne probably playing their last games here in Jacksonville. That ultimately did come to fruition. But what does last week's movement mean for the Jaguars moving forward? A guy that has put out a tremendous amount of content over the last couple of weeks is John Shipley, Jaguars on SI, and he's always kind enough to join us here on Hacker After Dark. John, how we doing, man?
Hey, I'm doing good, my friend. How you doing?
I'm good, and I mean that. On social media, the Jaguars on SI website, you and your guys over there put out unbelievable stuff. You seemingly are always ahead of the next big story, so I certainly commend you guys for an outstanding job. And we'll go individually here in a moment, John, but just big picture, man. What did you make of what the Jaguars did and in some cases did not do last week?
Yeah, I think, like you mentioned, it kind of went as expected. I don't think many people thought Travis Etienne or thought Devin Lloyd would come back. I did think Etienne got more than what I anticipated he would get. I mean, he got $5 million more a year than Javonte Williams, and that certainly was outside the range that I thought he was going to get in the open market, and much further outside the range than I think the Jaguars would have gone to. So I think, is it a tough decision because emotions are tied to it, and he's a first-round pick who's a fan favorite who, because of the position he plays, I mean, he's a big playmaker. He touches the ball a lot. He scores a lot of points. Kids wear his jersey. But in terms of the actual, long-term building of a franchise, and I think what most people would say they would do, I mean, if you can get Chris Rodriguez for $5 million a year and him and Bashal Tootin with an expanded role can probably give you similar production and efficiency to what they got from Travis Etienne last year. So I think if that happens, then that's just them playing the game and playing it the right way. Devin Lloyd, same thing. I didn't think they were really going to come close to whatever his market looked like. He definitely came in lower than anybody, projected. I really thought he was going to get 18.5, 19 million at least. So a lot lower. It seemed like the off-ball linebacker position as a whole didn't do as well this offseason as a lot of people think it did. And I know because that number came in lower, a lot of Jags fans were disappointed. Why couldn't they keep him at that price? I don't think even at that price, it would have been a good move for them. For a couple reasons. One, we've seen how the guys who the Jaguars regime have ties to, Los Angeles Rams, Les Snead, Sean McVay. We've seen how they've operated at linebacker position. Not to say they devalue it or it's not important. They just believe they can find players at other points in the offseason, as opposed to, I think, maybe, giving them big deals. Because they inherited Devin Lloyd as a first-round pick. They inherited Foye Oluokun and his contract. I think that more likely than not, next year's starter at the position isn't on the roster. I think it'll either be a rookie or maybe a veteran they sign, after the draft if they don't find a rookie at the spot. But I think they trust Anthony Campanile to find the next replacement, the next answer for Devin Lloyd. Because at the end of the day, Devin Lloyd, very deserving of his deal, had a great year, but 3 out of his 4 seasons were underwhelming. And Anthony Campanile has now help back-to-back linebackers between him and Quay Walker have career years and strike big in free agency. So I think they trust Camp to find that next linebacker. And then just in terms of what they did, obviously only adding Chris Rodriguez, I think we expected them to not be, very active in free agency, especially compared to a year ago. But I would caution people from comparing it to, say, 2023. In 2023, obviously the Jaguars had to trade for Calvin Ridley to kind of set the table for that offseason. That was their big swing. But otherwise, they didn't sign anybody. They signed Brandon McManus and Josh Wells and Michael Dogby, and, guys like that. And you put their signings in comparison to even just signing one guy, Chris Rodriguez. Chris Rodriguez got $10 million guaranteed. The Jaguars' entire 2023 free agency class got about $1.2 million guaranteed.
John Shipley, Jaguars on SI. And back to the Chris Rodriguez portion of this. Yeah, I looked at the money he got, and that was more than maybe what people thought going in. And shame on me, because I was of the opinion, John, Rachaad White, Sean Tucker, these Tampa Bay running backs, because of their familiarity with Cohen, I didn't even think about Chris Rodriguez, who was with Liam Cohen for 1 year there at the University of Kentucky. So in hindsight, it makes perfect sense. And in talking to people in Washington, they don't understand why Cliff Kingsbury did not give Rodriguez the ball more. I mean, he averaged 4.5 yards per carry. He had 500 yards and 6 touchdowns last year. And for whatever reason, they just did not want to give him the football. And I guess Chris Rodriguez saw that and as a restricted free agent wanted to find greener pastures elsewhere.
Yeah, I was honestly surprised he was available. He was I believe, a restricted rights free agent that, Washington could have potentially kept, and they opted not to. And he very quickly, after becoming a free agent, was signed to the Jaguars. It makes a ton of sense. And they, like you said, signed him over adding a potential guy like Rachaad White, signed him to a good bit more money than Rachaad White got. Now, is it a lot of money? No. I mean, it's only like 2% of the cap, but looking at other running back deals, it's clear he's going to play a significant role in the offense. I think running back by committee is probably the best guess for how it's going to go, that him and Bashaw Tune will each have times to kind of shine and kind of take command of it, just giving an early look. But it's easy to see what the Jaguars like in Chris Rodriguez. James Gladstone put it perfectly. He said what his superpower was in college is what it's been in the pros. And his skill set's translated from college to the pros. It's the same scouting report. He's a really tough-nosed runner, can get those tough yards inside, breaks a lot of tackles, gets downhill. The simple truth is, for as explosive and exciting as Travis Etienne was last year, nobody can argue that the Jaguars' running game really declined over the second half of the year. They just could not efficiently run the ball, especially inside. I think this is their response to it. And I mean, just looking at his numbers in Washington, it's a little bit skewed because he didn't obviously get as many touches and there's a sample size issue, but he was one of the most efficient rushers in all of football last season. I mean, he just simply got the job done. It wouldn't surprise me if their running game is better next year than it was in 2025 with Travis Etienne. And that's no slight to Etienne. I just think for what they need and what they're missing, he makes a lot of sense.
John Shipley, Jaguars on SI. You also said something interesting about Devin Lloyd and his replacement. You said you don't believe that replacement is currently on the roster. I would tend to agree with you. Although Ventrell Miller is here, we talk about Jack Kaiser. It's more the Foye backup. Branson Combs is also a guy that James Gladstone mentioned last week, the undrafted rookie from last year that ultimately made the practice squad and then was raised and elevated to the 53-man roster. So with that being said, Miller, Combs, Kaiser, you still believe the Lloyd replacement is not here yet?
Yeah, I think of those three, if it was somebody internally, it would be Ventrell. And I think whoever they do, if they add somebody, Ventrell will compete, for that job. I don't think it's necessarily a slight against Ventrell or anything like that. I just think this is an opportunity for them where, they talked about guys having runways to having opportunities in the past. And I think linebackers position where they can do that, where they can find an impact young guy. And if not, if they want a veteran there with more experience than Ventrell, then, they'll probably have options. It's one of those positions where, especially when you consider how much big nickel and dime packages the Jaguars ran last year. I mean, Devin Lloyd came off the field a lot on passing downs last year. And again, it's not a knock on his skill set. It's how the Jaguars operated. They operated with a lot of extra safeties on the field instead of having two linebackers. So I think, especially when you're looking at it from that perspective, I think you could definitely, kind of expand guys they might look for, because maybe they don't need like a true playmaker at the spot. Maybe they just find somebody who they think is a really good fit. So I think Ventrell will battle with somebody, but I do think that that's one spot where, you can probably still sit him at a starter.
John, they did bring back Monteric Brown, and now you consider Brown, Hunter, Jarian Jones, Jordan Lewis. Of course, Lewis and Hunter are coming back from pretty significant injuries, so we have to assume that those are going to play out. But if they do, and if those guys are healthy, those are 4 pretty good corners on the Jaguars roster, correct?
Yeah, no, 100%. That's why I think re-signing Buster was so important. And they didn't re-sign Buster. They're only healthy corners that they lined up for a game today would be Jarian Jones, Christian Braswell, and Keith Taylor. So they obviously needed to keep Buster, not just because he's a good player, not just because he's developed really well, not just because they love him in the locker room and he's a perfect fit for their culture. Those are all reasons to sign him. I truly think the biggest positive was that they don't have to go into the draft now handcuffed into taking a cornerback super early. Now, they still should add to the position at some point. Like you said, they have two guys coming off injuries and Travis Hunter and Jordan Lewis. Jordan Lewis has happened really late in the season as well. So that just makes you wonder, do they just need bodies anyways, for the offseason? So I think corner is definitely something they need to add to at some point. But by bringing Monteric back, it was one of the moves that I think good franchises do, because the best way to approach the offseason is to fill your needs early so you can go into the draft with a complete open mind. And you can make picks that can fill needs that would have popped up 2-3 years down the road, and you don't even know it really in the moment. So, and then I think the price Buster got, I spoke to some people, some agents I spoke with thought Buster was going to get $12.5 to $13 million in offers from other teams. They got him for under 11. Now, maybe, people projected his market wrong. Same with the Devin Lloyd market. But I'd venture to guess the Jaguars got a really good value out of this Buster Brown deal.
It's really good insight. Yeah, I had heard that it was going to be higher than 11 too. I didn't hear 12.5 to 13, but obviously you talked to people that said that. It wouldn't surprise me with some of the numbers that I was hearing thrown around, and maybe it was a hometown discount for Buster Brown, who obviously appears on the surface that he wanted to stay here. Final moments with John Shipley, Jaguars on SI is where you find his terrific work. John, I'm a big James Gladstone fan. I'm not breaking any news there. When you're the general manager and you inherit a 4-13 team, and in 1 year you turn that team into 13-4, you tend to become a fan of his pretty quickly. There is no doubt, though, that he's a different cat, man, when it comes to a lot of different things. And last week, when he talked about those compensatory picks and stockpiling these things after losing Etienne and Lloyd, I know that got a lot of reaction from some national folks that cover the NFL. What did you make of what Gladstone had to say last week?
Yeah, I think, as usual, Ryan, as well as I do, the Jaguars are no stranger to this nationally. I think people were kind of missing the point he was making. I mean, he even said it in his own point. He was going, hey, I'm not talking about using these picks just so I can make an extra 6th-round pick next year, which is what I think people's takeaway was that, he's not signing guys because he wants to have 10 or 11 rookies in next year's draft class. I don't believe that's the case, largely because James Gladstone outright said that's not the case. But we saw something similar happen with Travis Hunter. He said in January, yeah, he's going to play more corner than receiver. And a month and a half later, it gets spread like wildfire after he had already point blank said it. So I think what the Jaguars want to do is, I do think they want to collect future draft capital. But I think the reason to do that is just like Gladstone said. I mean, having 10 picks for next year's draft, look at last year's situation. The Jaguars don't have the capital to trade a 4th and a 6th round pick away for Jacoby Myers. Do they make the playoffs? Do they get the best run of Trevor Lawrence that we've ever seen, an MVP finalist type of year, and you just absolutely know that Liam Cohen is the coach? A lot of variables at play, but it's just hard to say it would have looked anywhere near the same. So James Gladstone's already proven that this approach works, in my opinion. I think James Gladstone really wants to be aggressive on the trade market. He was last year, made a ton of trades, and I think he wants the flexibility to do that. So he can now move forward. They won't officially get these comp picks rewarded to him until next year. So you can't 100% know what you're going to get, but you can project. So they can project, moving forward in terms of their stockpile, having a 4th, 5th, and 6th. And I'll be more open to moving those kind of picks for getting veterans at different points in the offseason. So I think it makes a lot of sense, but I think, as usual, a lot of people outside Jacksonville didn't really get it.
No, it's a great point. They have 21 picks, but I don't believe they're going to end up with 21 players over the next 2 drafts. I think, like you said, a 4th and a 6th for Jacoby, a 6th rounder for Tim Patrick. You saw them doing a lot of that sort of stuff, and I would imagine it will continue. John, final question. Then I want to talk about the coverage you guys have on Jaguars on SI. And again, it's been fantastic, the work that you have done. When you start looking ahead to the draft, we're just over a month away. Everything you hear is that it's going to be a heavy defensive draft for Jacksonville. Is that your opinion?
I think so. It looks like a heavy defensive draft to begin with. It really looks like a lot of the Jaguars' needs, defensive line, linebacker, tight end, kind of really mesh with this year's draft. But just because the Jaguars, more of their needs are on defense in general. You look at the guys they lost. They lost a starting linebacker. starting corner, starting safety. I mean, they have more holes to fill on defense and offense, but they do have some spots on offense, I think, that they need to fill. I mean, tight end specifically. They're not going to enter training camp with their tight end room being Brendan Strange, Quentin Morris, Hunter Long. I feel that very confidently. I'm not reporting that. I'm just guessing that there's no way that they go into training camp without being a tight end room. So I think they're going to add to that. They need to add some receiver depth. So they need help on offense too, but I definitely do think it'll be a defensive heavy draft in general.
Well, all eyes now turn towards the draft again, April 23rd, 24th, and 25th up in Pittsburgh. The Jaguars, 4 picks in the top 100. Despite not having a first-rounder, they will still have 4 day 2 selections. John Shipley, Jaguars on SI. John, tell the good folks here in Jacksonville what you have coming out on the website as free agency continues and as the draft approaches.
Yeah, we're going to continue, now that we're getting into the second waiver free agency, look more and more at the draft. There's a new tool from NFL Next Gen Stats that, kind of gives you insight and data on where mock drafts kind of throughout the internet's database are leaning for teams. So I'm going to take a look at that, just kind of see what the consensuses are for the Jaguars and guys who make sense for them at 56 or wherever they do end up picking.
He's one of our favorites, John Shipley, Jaguars on SI. John, I know you're busy, man. Thank you for the time, and we'll do it again soon, pal.
No, thank you. I appreciate it.
I'm Logan Cook from the Jacksonville Jaguars.
So Logan Cook will kick it away. And they're going to throw it to Walker. And it's going to be a first down.
On 1010 XL.
Live streaming from the XL Digital Studios. Brightened by Harbor Dental Care, Jacksonville's first choice for dental emergencies.
If you are an experienced electrician looking for your next big opportunity, look no further than the Millard Electric Company, a trusted name in the industry for over 96 years. At Millard Electric, we tackle the biggest projects in the city, offering you the chance to showcase your skills on a grand scale. We believe in rewarding hard work with the best pay, top-notch benefits, and an unbeatable culture where people actually care about each other. Take your career to new heights with Millard Electric Company. Apply today at millercareers.com. Millard Electric, an equal opportunity employer.
And that concludes the Joe C. Jack of all trades show. Tune in next week where I'll be installing my own French drain.
Joe, wake up, man.
Hey, John, I must have dozed off.
We finished those projects you started.
Whoa, my seamless gutters are actually seamless.
And they're connected into underground PVC drain lines.
And my sprinklers. Wow, look at that coverage.
Next time, just call me first, Joe.
I will, but I ain't singing that song.
Clearwater irrigation
and drainage too.
Bueller.
Stay cooler with Bueller.
Hey, pal.
Stand back, Jason. I'm gonna
Sneeze? Yeah, I saw that coming.
It's all this spring pollen, Jason. It's outside and it's inside my house, and I just can't stop. I can't stop.
Sneezing? Okay, let me help you with that.
How can you help?
At Bueller Air and Plumbing, we can improve your indoor air quality with air purifiers, UV lights, and filtration systems. Every new system we install includes high-efficiency 4-inch filters that work better and last longer, even if you forget to change them.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Life can get pretty dusty sometimes. If you spend all day, you could miss it.
Stay cooler with Bueller.
Visit BuellerAir.com.
Checkmate.
I'm Brendan Cecilia, founder of Checkmate Coatings.
And I'm Chester, Checkmate's mascot and brand ambassador.
Why do you even talk in these ads?
People see me on the trucks, Brendan, so they expect to hear from me as well.
But I have over a decade's experience personally installing high-quality polymer floors right here in Jacksonville.
Well, I'm a professional mascot, riding around on the side of your trucks, smiling at passers-by.
Then could you at least tell people about our 2-stage polymer application process? Give your garage the finishing touch with a gorgeous floor that's guaranteed to last?
A bit busy posing for selfies, I'm afraid.
Years of experience?
Check. Adorable mascot?
Check. The team you need to make your garage gorgeous? Checkmate!
Transforming your floors, making them great. Checkmate.
Visit checkmatecoatings.com. That's checkmatecoatings.com.
This is Paige, owner of Awaken 180 Weight Loss. People ask me all the time what's healthy. And that's hard because healthy is different from losing weight. And I think that's where a lot of people struggle. There are a lot of foods out there that are healthy foods, but they're not going to support your weight loss. And that's what we're here to help with. We're here to help you get in the healthy foods that are going to help you lose weight. The Awaken 180 difference is our coaches. It's our team. You can find things online about weight loss, but you try them yourself and they just don't work. And that's because everyone is different. And that's what our coaches are so skilled at helping you figure out.
Thanks, Paige. Hacker here. Figuring it out, that's what I needed. And the reason I chose Awaken 180 weight loss. Not a med, not a diet plan. I wanted a solution. Do what I did and make a 180 with your health and weight. Schedule your Awaken 180 consultation today. Call 844-346-1800. That's 844-346-1800 or awaken180weightloss.com.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Still present, ready. Farah doesn't flinch. This is Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
Yes, it is. With you till 10 o'clock. Glad you're with us. 1010XL and 92.5 FM. Again, thank you to my buddy John Shipley, Jaguars on SI, for joining us tonight here on Hacker After Dark. We'll continue the Jaguar conversation coming up in the 9 o'clock hour. But as we mentioned, or as I mentioned at the top, you know, the Jaguars on paper haven't gotten a lot better. One of their rivals today in the AFC did get considerably better. Boy, they're having a fire sale in Miami. I mean, good grief, a fire sale. You talk about Minkah Fitzpatrick. You talk about Tyreek Hill. You talk about Tua. You talk about Bradley Chubb. All of these guys that are gone. And today, one of the final pieces, Jalen Waddle, is traded away. Jalen Waddle to Denver for the 30th pick in round one. The Broncos also include a third and a fourth. Miami sends Denver Jalen Waddle and a fourth. So they flip-flop fourths. Waddle goes to Denver. The Broncos send a first and a third to the Dolphins. One thing I don't understand, Aaron, you're an NFL guy. Maybe you can help me understand this. The Dolphins are in the midst of a fire sale, right? I'm not breaking any news there. When you release Tyreek Hill, when you release Jalen Waddle, when you trade Minkah Fitzpatrick, when you release Tua, you got some of the most dead money on your cap in the history of the NFL. Needless to say, there's not a lot of expectations for the Dolphins in 2026. But yet in doing all that, they went out and they brought in Malik Willis for $68 million. Why, if you're in the midst of a rebuild, and some are calling it, you know, the Manning sweepstakes, right? The Cooper Manning sweepstakes, because he's not Cooper Manning. Who's Cooper's kid? Why can't I think of his name? The Texas quarterback.
Arch.
Yeah. The Arch Manning sweepstakes. Why, if you're in the midst of that, do you bring in Malik Willis for $68 million?
Well, Malik Willis is only 26 years old. He's turning 27. I mean, he's a young kid, and he showed a lot of promise when Jordan Love went down late in the season. So, you know, I mean, they're going to have to get a quarterback. I mean, you take a chance on this kid, and, you know, it's a 3-year deal. I think he shows a lot of promise. My only concern is, what kind of weapons are they going to have around him?
They have nothing. That's the point. I mean, you're going to pay this guy a decent amount of money. I think of the $68 million, a lot of that's guaranteed. Now, it's basically a 2-year deal. I think they can get out of it at year 3. But regardless, they're giving him a decent amount of money this year and next year, and you're not giving him any weapons to work with. Because, I mean, if you trade Waddle, which they did, if you release Tyreek Hill, you're doing all this stuff. I mean, if I'm Devon Achane, the running back, I go in there tomorrow and I want out of here. I mean, if I'm Achane, I want out of there. What is the point of being in Miami in the midst of this? I mean, Achane is the last guy they have left on the offense that is a resemblance of any playmaker that you could bring in. I don't know. I know Ryan O'Halloran was on with Rick Ballou earlier. He threw out on Twitter, you know, if you're any team in the NFL, you call Miami, because obviously they're open for business. If I'm a team that needs a running back, I think Devon Achane's an unbelievable option. Would Miami be willing to deal him like they traded Jalen Waddle? We'll see. It's just interesting. And I know we have a lot of Dolphin fans here in Jacksonville. I don't really have a positive spin to put on this, except that you have a lot of draft picks in this year's draft. You're going to have to give this new head coach and this new GM some time. But they decided when they got there that they were going to break it down to the stubs, man. They were going to break it down to the basic foundation and start building back up. And it is not going to be a pleasant 2026 for the Miami Dolphins, particularly in an AFC East that has the Buffalo Bills and has obviously the defending AFC champion in the New England Patriots. Quickly, other news around the NFL today. Hollywood Brown used to be a marquee name. Had some decent years in Baltimore. Went to Kansas City. It really didn't work out there the way that people thought it would. There was a lot of injuries for Hollywood Brown. But he's on the move again as he heads to Philadelphia. And all of a sudden now he joins a wide receiver core that currently still has A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert at tight end, obviously Saquon Barkley. You had another weapon in Hollywood Brown who's not going to be counted on to be a 1, a 2, or even a third option. That could potentially be pretty good for the Eagles. And then I usually don't talk about offensive guards very often, but I will give the Texans credit. Wyatt Teller, just a beast of an offensive lineman, a 3-time Pro Bowler for the Cleveland Browns, was in Cleveland for a long time. He is signed today by Houston. That's the best offensive line signing the Texans have made in 2 years. That is, I mean, they did a lot of nonsense last year in the offseason. I thought trading away Tyus Howard and doing what they were doing this offseason was like, here we go again. They got Braden Smith from Indianapolis, decent player when healthy, but the Wyatt Teller signing today, that's pretty good. I'll tip my cap to the Texans on that. I like that signing. They also, like we said, got David Montgomery. You get Tank Dell back with Nico Collins. All they need is something that looks like an offense. When you have a defense like they have, you just need something functional that looks like an offense. If they had a functional offense, they would have beat New England in the playoffs. They did not have a functional offense when your quarterback throws 4 interceptions in the first half. I mean, if you remember that game, the Patriots could not block Will Anderson or Danielle Hunter. I think Drake May fumbled the ball like 3 or 4 times in that game. The Texans got a bunch of turnovers. Their offense was just hot garbage there in Foxborough, which is why they lost. They're trying to do something about that, so they go get David Montgomery. You go get a couple of new offensive linemen, like today with Wyatt Teller. You know you get Tank Dell back. Certainly the Jaguars and the Texans will be competing for the AFC South more than likely again. And through this point of the offseason, right now you got to give a check mark to Houston, right? Because they were 1-1A last year. They finished 1 game apart. The Jaguars were 13-4. The Texans were 12-5. They each beat each other once. Houston appears to have improved their roster since the end of the year, where the Jaguars appear to have gotten worse on paper since the end of the year. So we'll see. Long off season. Things could change in the blink of an eye, but I'll give the Texans credit. I thought the Wyatt Teller signing today was a pretty good one. Approaching halftime on Hacker After Dark. We'll take you up till 10 o'clock as we do every night. We'll shift gears a little bit coming up, talk a little NCAA tournament. And remember, Neil Blackman, Saturday Down South in the Florida Basketball Hour podcast. He joins us in less than 15 minutes to give his thoughts on the Gators trying to repeat as college basketball national champions. Glad you're with us. Tuesday night, Hacker After Dark, here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM.
Where legends draft and drip to the checkered flag.
Right into it! They crossed the line, and guess who wins the race?
This Sunday at Darlington.
Wow!
On Jacksonville's high-performance NASCAR station.
Oh, my goodness!
1010XL.
This is Jeff Middlecoff with Cogent Bank. My associate Ryan Salem and I joined Cogent Bank because we wanted to revolutionize the mortgage business, just like Cogent Bank has revolutionized the banking business. So Ryan Salem and I are able to leverage the power and stability of Cogent Bank to go out and find our clients the best investors, the best products, and the best rates in the entire country for your particular mortgage loan. Of course, you don't have to be a customer at Cogent Bank to take advantage of our mortgage services to buy or refinance your home. We offer jumbo loans, VA, FHA, conventional, and investment loans. At Cogent Bank, we offer mortgages nationwide, so we can help you with a second home or help a family member who lives or is moving to another state. Call Ryan Salem or myself, Jeff Middlecoff, at Cogent Bank today, 904-442-9191, to see how we can help you with any of your mortgage loan needs, whatever or wherever they may be.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender, Cogent Bank, NMLS ID 402296, Ryan Salem, NMLS ID 1182429, Jeff Middlecoff, NMLS ID 249086.
Rick Ballou for Coy Dental. That's right, Carlson Dental is now Coy Dental. Dr. Lee has been practicing there for 9 years, has purchased the company. The Coy Dental team still has the same great dentists and staff. And remember, if you get nervous visiting a dentist, don't. There's never a problem at Coy Dental. With light sedation for cleaning, then deep sedation for all your restorative needs. Coy Dental, located in Bartram Park.
Brian Wall here. Would you take your paycheck, go to the bank, cash it, and then simply throw it up in the air? I didn't think so. But in a way, over the years, that is exactly what you're doing if you have old or builder-grade windows in your home. Even if you have a brand new home, those windows are not the best windows you can have to save on your energy bills. Window World has sold millions of replacement windows to homeowners like you, and Window World's customer satisfaction is the highest in the business. Please check Window World out yourself and save on your new windows and on your energy bills. Compare with other companies and you'll see Window World is simply the best for less. It's up to you. You can call Window World and get a free estimate, get the best guarantee in the window replacement business, save money on your new windows, and save more on your energy bills. Call Window World today at 904-443-7001 or go online to windowworldneflorida.com. Thank you for your business.
Window World also offers energy-efficient doors.
The madness is at Mr. Chubby's Wings Thursday for a double dip. Back-to-back live broadcasts into the night with Rick Ballou and Hacker After Dark, 6 to 10 p.m. this Thursday. Don't miss the madness at Mr. Chubby's Wings, Ponte Vedra.
Your time matters, so why waste it sitting in a dealership for a basic oil change? At Valvoline Instant Oil Change, you're in and out in 15 minutes. No appointment needed, and you never leave your car. Rated 4.7 stars nationwide and #1 quick lube in America by Forbes for customer service. The experts at Valvoline will have you on your way quickly. And FYI, your warranty can't be affected by having Valvoline work on it. That's the law, no matter what other places may insinuate. Valvoline Instant Oil Change. Quick, easy, done.
The best value for golf in Jacksonville remains Cimarron, totally reestablished with new tee boxes, improved fairways and greens, also a brand new restaurant with indoor and outdoor settings, and live music. Join the Wild One loyalty program online at Cimarron Golf. When's the last time you played Cimarron? Cimarron Golf Club on 210, the Wild One.
What's happening, beautiful people? E.T. here. Let me tell you about a little something that's happening right here in my side of town in Fleming Island. Encore Research Group is advancing the future of medicine through clinical research studies focused on weight loss, diabetes, hypertension, and more. Their team of multi-specialty doctors are proudly serving folks in Fleming Island, Green Coast Springs, and Middleburg. If you ever wondered whether a research study might be right for you, find out at EncoreDocs.com to see if you qualify. Encore Research Group. The future of medicine starts here.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. When it's game time, Farah doesn't flinch. This is Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
All right, entering the 9 o'clock hour, the field of 68 has now been trimmed to the field of 67. If you had UMBC winning it all, your bracket is officially busted as Howard gets it done tonight, 86-83. I believe Howard's reward for that will be Michigan. Yeah, it's Michigan, Thursday night.
Well, my
7-10.
bracket's already bust.
Yeah, so a good game. Howard 86-83, but 68 now down to 67. And there actually is a pretty decent game coming up here in about 20 minutes. You got NC State and I believe Texas, right? A battle between the ACC and the SEC. The winner of that game will get BYU on Thursday. Now, tomorrow night in Dayton, for you Florida Gator fans, you can do a little scouting if you so choose. Prairie View A&M and Lehigh will battle at 6:40 Eastern. The winner of that game will take on Florida Friday night down in Tampa. Look, I'm not I thought it was dumb when they expanded it from 64 to 68. I just wasn't a fan of that. I hear talk now about expanding it to 76 or even more. Why? Why mess up a good thing? You expanded it to 68. All right, whatever. The first four, they are what they are. Although it was funny that one year that like VCU played in the first four, then made it all the way to the final four. You very rarely see that. But it is what it is. I personally would have 16 teams going at it, and I would have the 16 seed in each of the four regions play in Dayton. I don't think it's necessarily fair to have Texas, NC State, Miami of Ohio, and SMU have two of those teams not even get into the field of 64. With no offense, but you have, you know, UMBC, Howard, Lehigh, and Prairie View A&M, and two of those teams will get into the field of 64. If it were me personally, if we're going to do this stuff in Dayton, I would have 8, what I consider 16 seeds going at it, with the 4 winners becoming the 4 16 seeds in the South, Midwest, West, and East. But obviously, I don't make the rules. People in higher tax brackets do that. I'm just here to comment on what they do, and that's the way they have decided to do it. But nevertheless, Florida does get the winner of Lehigh and Prairie View tomorrow night. Also, Miami of Ohio plays tomorrow night, and that to me will be one that I'll probably watch. That's that 31-1 team that has gotten a lot of conversation. They did not beat a team in the top 50 all year. In the KenPom rankings, the basketball rankings, Miami of Ohio did not beat a top 50 team all year. So that's why at 31-1, they're in Dayton, and they were one of the last at-large teams to make it. They obviously lost their one game in their conference tournament. But I want to see what a 31-1 team looks like as they take on SMU out of the ACC, and that will be the second game tomorrow night in Dayton. I will tell you a couple of other things going on in sports as well. Venezuela and the United States in the championship of the World Baseball Classic, bottom of the third. Venezuela has taken an early 1-0 lead. Look, there's a lot of baseball fans here in Jacksonville, certainly more than hockey, so I don't really want to compare them. But for a casual sports fan, I get the sense the World Baseball Classic is a lot like the Winter Olympics in hockey, how people were just flocking to the Winter Olympics, particularly that championship game, the U.S.-Canada, and how we're still talking about it a month later. This World Baseball Classic has been sensational. I mean, the diehards have loved it. I would consider myself casual at best baseball fan. I've loved it. That Dominican Republic United States game a couple of nights ago was theater, was pure theater. And then, I mean, you can go to when Italy and Venezuela played last night, or when Japan and Venezuela played. A lot of these games have been absolutely fantastic. The Mexico United States game was a really, really good one. And the World Baseball Classic has been great. More importantly, no injuries of note have really taken place. It's always something you worry about if you're a Major League Baseball fan, because this thing is right up against the start of the season. Will there be a big injury that comes out of it? To my knowledge, there has not been. Just a lot of really good baseball, which ends tonight. Again, Venezuela up 1-0 in the top of the fourth. And Orlando and the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Magic were giving the Thunder a game. The Thunder have moved up 7 midway through the fourth. Oklahoma City is going to be hard to beat in the playoffs. They're ridiculous, man. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who Gator fans, I don't have to remind you, was at one point committed to Florida before he changed his mind and went to Kentucky. That guy, in the blink of an eye, has become the best player in the game. And that Oklahoma City team, who's a defending world champion, I don't see a team that's going to beat them this year. I think they're going to repeat. You show me a team in the West or the East that's going to beat that team in a best 4 out of 7. I haven't seen them yet. Orlando's giving them a game, but Oklahoma City starting to pull away. We will keep you updated. Coming up next, let's get back into the college game. Let's talk Florida Gators. As their NCAA tournament run begins on Friday night, Neil Blackman of Saturday Down South, he's also the host of the Florida Basketball Hour, as we do a deep dive into Florida's path to a repeat national championship. Neil Blackman joins us next on a Tuesday night here in Jacksonville, Florida. It's Hacker After Dark.
The plot begins to thicken. Now, I can't be specific about the heroes and zeros.
Dan Hick, Jeff Prosser, Mike Debs, Fat Tony, Joe C, Hacker, Matt Hayes, Leon Searcy, Frank French, Hayes Carline, Lauren Brooks, Rick Ballou, 1010XL.
Blue here for the Blue Crab House, located right off of San Jose. It's on Jewington Creek Road. They've been around since 1996. Indoor-outdoor dining. Also, takeout is available at the Blue Crab House. Open 4:30 to 9, Tuesday through Saturday. Sunday, noon until 9. Remember, Tuesday, $2 margaritas. Wednesday, $1 oyster night. How about the blue crabs? How about my personal favorite, the Canadian snow crabs? Whatever it is that you fancy, you get it right there. The Blue Crab House.
Have you or someone you care about been arrested or had their driver's license taken away? I'm Susan Cohen, and I work with David Robbins at the law firm of Epstein & Robbins. We are experienced fighters for those charged with DUI and all criminal offenses. I've been named the best DUI attorney in the state, and David has been named the best criminal defense lawyer in Jacksonville. In your battle with the justice system, there is only one thing you need to know. Dial David 24/7 at Epstein & Robbins, 354-5645.
All right, Jacksonville, let's talk about it. Spring cleaning feels great until your drains remind you what they've been holding on to all winter. If your sink's burping, your shower's backing up, or your toilet's hesitating like it's reading a blitz, it's time to call in the pros. Call Duck Duck Rooter. During their spring drain cleaning promotion, get your drains cleaned plus a free camera inspection for just $129. Must have outside clean out, honest pricing, proven experience, no fourth quarter surprises. When you're stuck, call the Duck. That's 904-862-6769 or duckduckrooter.com.
The flagship station of the Jaguars. WJXL AM Jacksonville Beach. WJXL FM Jacksonville Beach.
Pickett here. Restore comfort and confidence with oculoplastic specialist Mary Kate Wilson, MD, at the Eye Associates, Jacksonville's expert in oculofacial plastic and reconstructive care. Dr. Wilson specializes in eyelid surgery, cosmetic and reconstructive procedures, and treatments, always with a personalized approach. Now seeing patients at the Beaches, Southside, and St. John's locations. To schedule your consultation with Dr. Wilson, call the Eye Associates, formerly Bowden Associates, Schneider Eye and Wellness Center, and Janet A. Betchkel, MD, at 296-0098.
Get ready for spring turkey season at Green Acres Sporting Goods. Find shotguns trusted in the field from Browning, Beretta, and Benelli. Plus, the newest bows are ready to test shoot from Hoyt and Matthews. For over 55 years, Green Acres Sporting Goods has helped Northeast Florida hunters gear up with confidence. Stop by Green Acres today at the corner of Normandy and Hammond Boulevard or shop online anytime at greenacresporting.com.
Alert! Alert! Termite swarms are active right now in Jacksonville, and once they get inside, damage can happen fast. Termites don't knock, they silently attack the structure of your home, leaving behind costly repairs and long-term headaches. Protect what you've worked hard for with the proven protection homeowners trust. Terminix, with advanced termite treatment and prevention solutions. Visit Terminix.com and schedule your free termite inspection today.
Welcome to Key Buick GMC, proudly family-owned and operated since 1943. Come see why they're North Florida's new and pre-owned truck center, conveniently located on Southside and JTB, just minutes from the St. John's Town Center. At Key Buick GMC, every new vehicle comes with our lifetime powertrain warranty. Key Buick GMC, we are professional grade. Online at KeyBuickGMC.com. Lifetime powertrain warranty covers engine, transmission, drivetrain only. Exclusions apply. See dealer for details.
When your home or business deserves more than ordinary glass, you trust the experts. Capital Glass and Shower Doors has been elevating spaces for over 40 years with precision, craftsmanship, and clean, modern design. From sleek frameless shower enclosures to elegant glass railings, wine cabinets, and any custom glass that makes a statement, Capital Glass delivers unmatched quality, service, and attention to detail. Your vision, their expertise. Capital Glass and Shower Doors at capcoglass.com.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Focused, fueled, fearless, Farah. Here's another call on the 1010XL hotline, driven by Key Buick GMC, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty.
Back here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville, we are glad you are with us. March Madness gets underway this week. Of course, the NCAA tournament, 10 teams out of the Southeastern Conference made the field of 68. The Florida Gators won't tip off until late on Friday evening. They say 9:25. Yeah, right. I'll believe that when I see it. It'll probably be closer to about 10 o'clock on Friday. We still don't have clarity as to who Florida is going to play. We will get that soon, with it either being Prairie View A&M or Lehigh. But let's talk about this Florida Gator basketball team heading into the tournament, the disappointment in Nashville last week, and what that may mean moving forward. Neil Blackman of Saturday Down South. He's also the host of the Florida Basketball Hour, and Neil is always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. Neil, how we doing?
Doing well. Appreciate you having me. It's the best time of the year for the hoop heads.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Look, it's a great time of year. As I mentioned, 10 teams in the SEC get in, including the Florida Gators, who are the #1 seed in the South region. We'll get looking forward, Neil, in a moment. Let's quickly look back to the SEC tournament. Look, Florida beat Kentucky, but even in the win, boy, they did not shoot the ball very well from the perimeter. And then in that semifinal game against Vanderbilt, that was ugly. That was as ugly as the Auburn loss was back in January. What were your biggest takeaways from Nashville, and how concerning was it what happened to the Gators up there?
Well, I think the biggest, guess I'd say the biggest takeaway is the turnovers. And that's what I asked Todd Golden about yesterday. Florida had 33 turnovers in 2 games. That ends up being 24% of Florida's possessions in Nashville, where they turned the ball over. If you stretched out 24% over an entire season, that would have been the worst turnover percentage in the country. So obviously, just didn't take care of the basketball. We're good enough in every other way, even with a poor shooting effort, to kind of comfortably beat Kentucky wire to wire. But, not good enough against Vanderbilt, who's a team that could get to the second weekend. And I think that hints at both how high Florida's sort of floor is and what can limit their ceiling. If Florida does not take care of the ball better, this won't be a very long NCAA tournament trip.
Neil, I used this analogy last night. Football coaches will tell you they want every offensive possession to end in a kick, either an extra point, obviously, a field goal, or a punt. Because if every offensive possession ends in a kick, that means they're not turning the ball over. Well, I'm going to bring that to the basketball court. For this Florida Gator team in particular, every offensive possession needs to end with the ball hitting the rim. Hopefully the ball goes in. But if the ball, at worst, hits the rim, then the best offensive rebounding team in the land, the best front court team in the land, has a great opportunity to get the offensive board. Turnovers completely offset that. When you turn the ball over, thus the ball does not hit the rim, that limits what the front court is going to be able to do. And I think your stat speaks volumes. The Gators simply have to hit the rim on offensive possessions and not give the ball to the other team.
Oh, yeah. No, that's totally true. In fact, it's interesting. Like, I was watching, like a lot of people, I was watching the Houston-Arizona game. And Arizona is probably the one team in the country that kind of does what Florida does a little better than Florida. They don't rebound as well as Florida, but it's similar in every other aspect. Stylistically, they play with 2 bigs pretty much all the time. They didn't against Houston some because they were in foul trouble. But that's how they want to play. They dominate with their defense, and they don't shoot a ton of threes, right? And so, late in the game, Arizona had just possessions where Houston had incredible pressure, and Arizona essentially just threw the ball up at the backboard. And on a couple occasions, they got rebounds and then made baskets. And on a couple occasions, they got, kind of, the bank's open, lucky shots. And for Florida, it would absolutely be better to take a low percentage 30-foot jump shot that hits the backboard and a turnover on any possession. And now I get that that's true for everybody, but for Florida, like a bad 3-point shot is actually a pretty good possession because they rebound so well. So, it really does come down to kind of ball security for the Gators. And then they have to shoot about 30 to 33% from three to feel pretty good out there. And by the way, they did that against Vanderbilt. So as bad as the shooting was against Kentucky, like they didn't shoot the ball terribly from deep against Vanderbilt. But, when you give up 24 points off turnovers, it's a big road back.
Neil Blackman, Saturday Down South, and the Florida Basketball Hour. He's with us here on 1010XL in Jacksonville. Number 1 seed 2 years in a row for Florida as they're the number 1 in the South region. Look, I'm not saying Todd Golden is Billy Donovan, far from it, although talk to me in a couple of weeks. If Golden wins another national championship, I think there is a conversation that starts needing to be had there. But having said that, it's the first time Florida has ever been back-to-back number 1 seeds in program history. That is something even Billy never did. What does that say about the job Todd Golden's done in just 4 years there at Gainesville?
Yeah, I mean, it speaks volumes, doesn't it? I think the reality on Florida and the program under Todd Golden is that this is, one of the best 5 coaches in America. I was doing a spot on ESPN radio yesterday, and it was kind of like, hey, this guy is the perfect fit for roster construction in the NIL era, and then understanding sort of how to build teams analytically, like the old Moneyball formula, right? And Florida has good money. They have a good NIL situation in basketball. You could argue it's even better than comparatively to what their football program has, right? But I think, just the way that he constructs rosters, it has been totally validated in that I don't think people appreciate what an immense challenge it was to lose all 4 pieces from one of the best backcourts in college basketball history, and then to turn that around and use the complementary piece of last year's team as the linchpin of a number 1 seed the following year. That's super impressive. And to do it after the 5-4 start, when a lot of staffs would have freaked out about, their guard additions, and Florida's guards have played really well down the stretch, with the exception of a couple games in Nashville. What an incredible job by Golden and his staff.
Neil, I think the committee was good to Florida in some regards and was bad to Florida in some regards. The good is this weekend. Look, they don't even play till Friday night. They're going to be literally one of the last first-round games of the tournament. So they get plenty of rest after losing on Saturday in Nashville. And they're going to play arguably one of the 2 worst teams in the field. Lehigh and Prairie View, whoever wins tomorrow night in Dayton. If you look at KenPom, I believe they're going to be like the last team ranked in KenPom that actually makes the round of 64. So having said all that, I mean, Friday night's a get-well game, correct?
Yeah, I think Friday night's a get-well game, and it's also a disciplined game in the last 10 minutes. And what I mean by that is we saw Florida have sort of incomplete games really from the Mississippi State game forward, right? They played pretty much a complete 40 against Arkansas, let's all be honest. And then after that, they got way behind against Mississippi State on senior night, which happens. And then they played great for 30 minutes. They played really well for 30 minutes at Rupp and didn't. And then same thing, right? So, yeah, get well is one great way to put it. And then in the last 10, when they get the big lead, can they close without sloppiness? Do they avoid late game turnovers? Are they locked in from a ball security standpoint? And from, I never worry about Florida's ability to compete under Todd Golden. I think that's another part of the culture that is just incredible. Florida plays so hard. But, yeah, I mean, Do you turn it over? Do you take good shots? Do you make good decisions? All those things, you want to build on that in the last few minutes of an opening round game.
Couple more for Neil Blackman, Saturday Down South. He's also the host of the Florida Basketball Hour. All right, so if they win Friday night, Sunday they get the winner of Clemson and Iowa. And I'm not going to proclaim to have watched a lot of Clemson or Iowa. I've watched a little more of Clemson than Iowa. But from what I've been told since the bracket came out, Neil, is both Clemson and Iowa, even though they have good guard play, you could argue their front courts are their bread and butter. And to me, that fits right in Florida's wheelhouse. A team that's going to beat Florida is a team where the guards on the opposing team are going to beat Florida. If Florida's playing a team that their front court is the bread and butter, well, that's not going to work because Florida's front court's going to overmatch almost every other front court in America. So I think from that standpoint, whether it's Clemson or Iowa, it's probably a good matchup for the Gators in round 2.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. The hard part of that is Clemson is very, very early in the stage of playing without Carter Welling, who had the unfortunate ACL injury, right, and is out. And so he was kind of the sun around which their offense orbited, and now he's gone. So Brad Brunell, who's a really good coach, has had to play smaller, and, they're playing differently. So it's kind of hard to evaluate them other than what we know about them as a program, which is that they play hard, they compete, they rebound, they defend, and sometimes they struggle to score. Iowa is fascinating me because their bigs are much different than Florida's bigs. They're, kind of skinnier, skilled dudes. Not that Florida's aren't skilled. They're both. That's why they're such a handful. But, Iowa's can stretch you a little bit. But the reality with Iowa and the way that they beat Florida would be Florida turns the ball over a lot, and then Iowa, who has been at starts one of the best point guards in the country, does not turn the ball over. And because Iowa plays at such a snail's pace, I think they're 320th in the country in tempo, you're going to have a lower possession game. And in a lower possession game, every turnover feels like 2. So that's the formula. Iowa has played some very close games against the big boys this season. They haven't really won any of them with the exception of Nebraska, who they beat at home pretty narrowly. They've lost the rest of their games against elite competition, but they're certainly capable of beating Florida. I think they're the tougher matchup.
Neil, we'll hopefully have you back on next week as hopefully the Gators are getting ready for the Sweet 16. It would be, I don't want to overstate this, shocking, is that a good word, if Florida is knocked out in the opening weekend?
It would be surprising, yes. Like I said, I think Iowa is the toughest game in this mini tournament. And, there's only one data point that says Iowa can win a big game, and it came at home.
So if that's the logic, and I agree with you, and Florida moves on, and again, hopefully we'll have more of a breakdown with you next week. Boy, the committee's got an interesting sense of humor to put Vanderbilt in this region, which could be a rematch. And then the idea that as a 1 seed, Florida has to play Houston in Houston is a joke. And people say, well, that's where the South region is, and you can't affect other teams by they should have gone into that room. The committee should have gone into that room and said, to me, under no circumstances can we put Houston in Houston for the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8. To me, that kind of smells of let's maybe do Kelvin Sampson a solid here.
Yeah, it does smell of that. And don't forget, Ryan, that Houston gave up hosting rights a month or so before the season began. Like, this isn't even, it wasn't even let's do Kelvin Sampson a solid. It's the committee was clear-eyed about what Houston did because you sign up to host these events, as you know, years in advance. And if you're the host school, you can't play in the host site. And Houston made a deal with Rice, and now Rice is suddenly the host, so Houston was eligible a month before the season. That little nugget is beautiful, and we need to get this on the air for your listeners. The committee did Vanderbilt so dirty. Like, if you look at all the metrics, if you look at the way teams are playing down the stretch, any measure that you want, quad 1 wins, what in the world is Vanderbilt doing as a 5? They were a 4 a month ago, and all they did was play better from that point forward. Michigan State was a 4 a month ago. They played worse, and they got a 3. Give me a break.
It certainly looks like Vandy and Florida are on a collision course. Do you see any issue that Vandy would have with either McNeese, Troy, or Nebraska?
I see Vanderbilt having a lot of problems with Nebraska. Now, I don't know if Nebraska will beat Scott Cross's team. I think Troy is really good and actually matches up much better with Nebraska than Vanderbilt does. The reason that Nebraska is the type of team that's given Vanderbilt problems all year is Vanderbilt thrives off turnovers. And, you know, they're never going to out-rebound anybody. So one big thing is, you know, they need to force mistakes in order to offset the rebounding deficits. Nebraska doesn't make mistakes. They're a team that is top 20 in the country in turnover percentage on both the offensive and defensive side of the ball. They're just really fundamentally sound. They can shoot it 1 to 5, just like Vanderbilt, and they rebound better. Problematic game for the Commodores. I actually see Cornhuskers advancing to Houston.
Wow. All right. That would be interesting. And we'll hopefully be able to preview it with you next week if Florida advances. Neil Blackman, Saturday Down South, and the Florida Basketball Hour. Neil, tell the good folks here in Jacksonville about your coverage, both on the website and the podcast, and where they can find your work.
Yeah, appreciate that. I am on X, NW Blackman. You can follow me there, or Florida BB Hour on X. My podcast is solely Florida basketball related. You know, we get into some football when it's time to do that too. And then all my work at Saturday Down South, the SEC, the ACC. I am the lead basketball writer over there. So read my stuff. Appreciate you having me.
Neil, I know you're busy, man. Thank you for the time. We'll hopefully be talking next week.
All right, man. Thank you.
The #1 station for Gator Nation. 1010XL, 92.5 FM.
Yo, Harvey, Zoe, group selfie.
Ooh, nice new iPhone 17, Drewski.
Let's do a triangle formation. I'm in front.
With a center stage front camera, everyone fits in the shot.
You got it at T-Mobile.
But switching takes forever.
Not anymore. Now you can switch to T-Mobile in just 15 minutes.
Focus, people. Nail your pose.
And you get a new iPhone 17 on them.
No way.
Yes way.
No way.
Yes way, guys. Switch to T-Mobile and get iPhone 17 on us. And right now, we'll pay off your old phone up to $800.
I'm grabbing my phone and switching to T-Mobile right now.
Get back, Harvey. We're taking a... Let's go again, y'all.
With 24 monthly bill credits, finance agreement, 256 gigabytes, $830, eligible trade-in, example iPhone 13, and new qualifying line, $60 plus per month plan with auto pay plus taxes and fees. For well-qualified customers, plus tax and $35 device connection charge. Credits end and balance due if you pay off early or cancel. Contact us. $800 via virtual prepaid card. Card typically takes 15 days after rebate submission, no cash access, and card expires in 6 months. Check out in 15 minutes per line. Visit T-Mobile.com.
The price of gold is soaring, and the price of silver is near record highs. If you've got gold or silver just lying around, Estates Roadshow wants it. Broken chains, old rings, coins, watches, diamonds, vintage jewelry. If it's valuable, they're buying it. No appointment needed, just walk in, get a free appraisal, and walk out with cash. They're also buying pre-1964 silver coins, flatware, sterling silverware stamped 925. They're buying coin collections, gold, silver, foreign, and domestic. Plus, they've been in business over 35 years with thousands of prior happy customers. Licensed, bonded, state-certified scales, highest tech equipment, employees with GIA certifications. The Estates Roadshow is happening 10 to 5 through Friday, close by in St. Augustine at World Golf Renaissance and Palm Coast at the Holiday Inn Express. Call Marshall at 609-781-6559 or go to estatesroadshow.com and follow Estates Roadshow on Facebook to see all upcoming events.
When Cinderella gets dressed up for the big dance.
For the win.
Follow the madness and listen for live tournament updates on 1010XL. Prepared by Fleming Island Center for Clinical Research. 1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Still, present, ready. Farah doesn't flinch. Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
All right, some trouble for the USA in the World Baseball Classic Championship. Bottom of the fifth, they find themselves now trailing Venezuela 2-0. A solo shot for Venezuela in the fourth. They lead the U.S. 2-0 in the bottom of the fifth. And Oklahoma City has just finished off Orlando. They lead by 8 with 10 seconds to go. So the Thunder will go to a season best in the NBA, 54-15 on the year. Back into the world of college basketball, we'll talk a little Florida, but I want to talk SEC as well. What about Arkansas with Darius Acuff? What about Alabama now with the looming issue with Holloway, their guard who got caught with some, allegedly, I guess is the word to use, ridiculous amount of marijuana, and it looks like he's probably not going to play opening weekend. What about Tennessee? Georgia, Mike White's back in the NCAA tournament. In total, 10 SEC teams are in, the first of which is about to tip off with Texas playing in the first 4 against North Carolina State. Max Barr is the host of the Southeastern 16 podcast. We'll talk Florida and the rest of the SEC when it comes to the NCAA tournament. That's next on a Tuesday night here in the city of Jacksonville. We're with you till 10 o'clock, Jacksonville. We're glad you're with us on Hacker After Dark.
What are you doing here?
Radio 1010XL.
That's how you spell it.
1010XL. 1010XL. Streaming live from the XL Digital Studios. Polished by Harbor Dental Care, the locally owned smile restoration experts.
Hey, Jacksonville, I'm sure by now you've seen our bright green GFL trucks and containers throughout the greater Jacksonville area. We are an industry leader in solid waste and would love the opportunity to earn your business. We are committed to customer service, reliability, and have unwavering focus on safety. Whether commercial or construction, let us haul your waste away. Call 904-760-5880 to get a quote today. GFL, green for life.
When you head out for a night with friends or going to the big game, don't forget the best game plan to win the night is to designate a driver and guarantee a safe ride home. Hydrating between buds is the best play you can make. Bud Light, reminding all to drink wiser.
Blue here for the Blue Crab House, located right off of San Jose. It's on Jewington Creek Road. They've been around since 1996. Indoor-outdoor dining. Also, takeout is available at the Blue Crab House. Open 4:30 to 9, Tuesday through Saturday. Sunday, noon until 9. Remember, Tuesday, $2 margaritas. Wednesday, $1 oyster night. How about the blue crabs? How about my personal favorite, the Canadian snow crabs? Whatever it is that you fancy, you get it right there. The Blue Crab House.
Get ready for spring turkey season at Green Acres Sporting Goods. Find shotguns trusted in the field from Browning, Beretta, and Benelli. Plus, the newest bows are ready to test shoot from Hoyt and Matthews. For over 55 years, Green Acres Sporting Goods has helped Northeast Florida hunters gear up with confidence. Stop by Green Acres today at the corner of Normandy and Hammond Boulevard, or shop online anytime at greenacresporting.com.
All right, Jacksonville, you know spring has officially arrived when the pollen's flying, the grass is growing, and your septic system starts thinking about getting your attention. Trust me, a simple pump out now can save you from a disaster that'll have the whole neighborhood holding their noses. That's why you call Duck Duck Rooter the only master septic contractor in Northeast Florida. Real pros, not somebody guessing with a shovel. Right now, schedule your spring septic clean and get $50 off septic tank pumping. So when you're stuck, call the Duck, 904-862-6769 or duckduckrooter.com.
Checkmate. I'm Brendan Cecilia, founder of Checkmate Coatings.
And I'm Chester, Checkmate's mascot and brand ambassador.
Why do you even talk in these ads?
People see me on the trucks, Brendan, so they expect to hear from me as well.
But I have over a decade's experience personally installing high-quality polymer floors right here in Jacksonville.
Well, I'm a professional mascot, riding around on the side of your trucks, smiling at passers-by.
Then could you at least tell people about our two-stage polymer application process? Give your garage the finishing touch with a gorgeous floor that's guaranteed to last?
A bit busy posing for selfies, I'm afraid.
Years of experience?
Check. Adorable mascot?
Check. The team you need to make your garage gorgeous? Checkmate! Transforming your floors, making them great. Checkmate. Visit checkmatecoatings.com. That's checkmatecoatings.com.
Money pages in your mailbox right now. Did you know there's local savings sitting in your mailbox right now? Money Pages is packed with real coupons from your favorite local businesses. Save money at restaurants like Al's Pizza, on pet care at Forever Vets, and on entertainment for the whole family at the Alhambra Theater. Plus, make sure to download the Money Pages app for savings on the go.
Pages in your mailbox right now.
Life is about choices and the decisions you make. I'm David Robbins with Epstein and Robbins. If you're convicted of a DUI, you'll have to face severe consequences. Walking through the doors of the courthouse or appearing at a bond hearing can be extremely intimidating. Without the right lawyer, you're likely to make the wrong decision. Let our team help you make the right decisions in court. Epstein and Robbins, the right choice.
Epstein and Robbins, fighting for your rights since 1975.
If you're the kind of person who likes to compete and win, listen up. Purple Heart Pools is hiring sales professionals and project managers to start immediately. Purple Heart Pools is a veteran-owned company building some of the most impressive custom pools in Northeast Florida. And they're looking for people who want to grow, earn, and be part of a winning team. If you've got the drive, work ethic, and the leadership mindset, search Purple Heart Pools and apply today. Equal opportunity employer.
Picken here. See clearly with the Eye Associates and trusted optometrists Zachary Boskool and Alice LaFlamme. From comprehensive eye exams, dry eye care, glaucoma management, diabetic eye care, and more, Dr. Boskool and Dr. LaFlamme are dedicated to protecting your vision. Immediate availability at all 5 Jacksonville locations. Schedule today with Dr. Boskool and Dr. LaFlamme by calling the Eye Associates, formerly Bowden Associates, Schneider Eye and Wellness Center, and Janet Betchkel, MD at 296-0098.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. When it's game time, Farah doesn't flinch. Now, the Monaghan's golden moment. Monaghan Jewelers in Atlantic Beach, your local family jewelers.
Back here on 1010XL at 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. The NCAA tournament. In actuality, it began earlier this evening. Of course, the field of 64 will tip off Thursday at noon. As far as the Florida Gators go, they're one of the last first-round games. They are Friday night. It says 9:25 Eastern. Not a chance that's going to happen. Probably closer to 10 o'clock Eastern on Friday against the winner of tomorrow night's game between Prairie View and Lehigh there in Dayton, Ohio. Let's talk about Florida. Let's talk about the rest of the SEC as the madness ensues with Max Barr. He is one of the hosts of the Southeastern 16 podcast, and Max is always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. Max, how we doing, man?
It's the best week of the year, Hack. This is the best time. These next few days, you're tinkering your bracket. You're trying to find the right Elite Eight, the right Final Four. There is nothing better than this week leading up to the first and second round of March Madness.
And we certainly want to get to your bracket in a little bit. You and Blake Lovell do such a great job hosting the Southeastern 16. You guys put out tremendous content when it comes to the world of college basketball. Max, from a mile-high view, before we really get into Florida, 10 teams in from the SEC. The conference isn't what it was last year, because last year it was historic. But still, man, you get 10 teams in the field, another really good year for the Southeastern Conference.
Oh, yeah, the general consensus will be a very down year for the SEC. But when you look at the league as a whole, there might not be a conglomerate of 2, 3, and 4 seeds, but the depth of the league was on display. I mean, you just missed out on adding 2 more teams to the tournament, in Oklahoma and Auburn. They just missed out. You could have had possibly an 11-team SEC field. I think the SEC has a good chance at getting over 2 teams into the Sweet 16 with your different your runs for a potential of Florida, of Vandy, and Arkansas, Tennessee. There's some nice setups here for the league. It might not have been the most top-heavy year like last year, but I don't think it was quite as bad as people are making it out to be.
All right, Max, it did not go for Florida the way we were all hoping it would in Nashville. They beat Kentucky, but they didn't look very good in doing it. And then they just got boat raced by Vanderbilt. I mean, they're turning the ball over, just awful offense at times. What did you make of that performance in Nashville on Saturday, and how concerned should Florida fans be as the tournament approaches?
Well, I think there is some concern, definitely. I mean, the three-point shooting has been the Achilles heel of the team in the non-conference, and then it really started to heat up in February and even into early March. But then you find yourself with a week off and then have to play on a neutral floor, and the Gators shoot 3 of 20 for 15% against Kentucky and 29% against Vanderbilt. So you do have a little bit of those worries in the back of your mind of the poor perimeter shooting on a neutral floor in a single elimination situation. That does worry you a little bit. I will say, though, that Vanderbilt game, Vanderbilt just, hey, you got to tip your cap sometimes. You get 6 threes combined from McLaughlin and Okereke. I mean, they just could not miss a mid-range in that first half. You got Jalen Washington hitting pull-up mid-ranges. Sometimes it's just a team's day, and I'm not really knocking Florida all too much for that Vanderbilt game. I really think that was more of just, it was Vandy's day.
Max Barr, one of the hosts of the Southeastern 16 podcast. He's with us here on 1010XL in Jacksonville. Max, I made this analogy earlier in the week. You know, and football coaches say they want every offensive drive to end with a kick, because an extra point obviously means you scored a touchdown, a field goal, you have a chance to get points, or even a punt, which is not great, but it means you didn't turn the ball over. I think it's very similar for this Florida basketball team. Get the ball on the backboard, man. Get the ball on the rim, all right? Because if you shoot it, even if you miss it, if it hits the backboard or the rim, those 4 monsters in the front court have a chance to go get it. Offensive rebounds, you know, assert their dominance. It's the turnovers that just kill this Gator basketball team, and you saw that heavily against Vanderbilt. So if I'm a Gator fan, a missed three-pointer isn't the worst thing in the world, because then Chinyalu, Condon, Houck, Hanlockton can go do their thing. What is the worst thing in the world is when Boogie Flan and Xavier Lee and Isaiah Brown and all these guys are just turning the ball over at the rate they were on Saturday.
Yeah, that's the thing with Florida, and you always hear the mantra of guards win in March, and you got to have good guard play in March. Well, the thing is every single 1 seed is built around their forwards. Duke, Arizona, Michigan, and Florida are all what makes their team 1 seeds is not their guard play. So while, yes, you can have your concerns with the guard play of Florida, you can have your concerns with the guard play of Michigan, with the depth of now Arizona with Jaden Bradley's wrist, and obviously Duke's point guard Caleb Foster out for the season. So while, yes, I am a little bit concerned about the turnovers in the guard play and some of the shot selection there from Boogie Fland, I'm also concerned about that with every other 1 seed.
All right, Max, let's look ahead at Florida's road. They play Friday night. Again, no offense to Prairie View A&M or Lehigh, but I have a better chance of becoming a NASA astronaut than either one of those two have of beating Florida and Tampa. I feel pretty strong in that conviction. So I would assume that Florida is going to get by on Friday. Sunday is Iowa-Clemson. That winner will take on Florida. And truthfully, I don't know a lot about Iowa or Clemson other than I know Iowa's got a pretty good point guard, but they're basically built around their front court. Clemson just had a pretty devastating injury to one of their main players. Who would give Florida more problems, in your opinion, Iowa or Clemson?
I think Iowa is definitely going to offer more problems than a Clemson. If Clemson's 6'11" big man wasn't out for the season, that definitely adds a wrinkle there. Brad Brownell, great coach. He always has his teams very balanced and well coached. But this Iowa team, in March, you always get a little bit worried about the really slow tempo teams, Hack. You just less possessions, more threes. There's more chance for an upset there. And this is an Iowa team with a great coach and a good NBA level point guard. They might be very undersized in the Big Ten, but they do slow the game way, way down. They do force a good amount of turnovers. They're top 15 in the country in turnover rate. And so those things add up into a pretty difficult matchup. I would much rather see an injured Clemson front court than this tricky Iowa squad.
You know, we'll hopefully have you back on next week if Florida advances. For this argument, let's say they do advance past what would be a tricky Iowa game or a Clemson team, as you mentioned. Boy, the committee's got an interesting sense of humor, right? To put Vanderbilt in the same region. Now, I've talked to people that think Vandy might have trouble with McNeese and might have real trouble with Nebraska. What's your thought on a Vandy-Florida rematch? How likely is that in the Sweet 16?
That's what I will probably have. I'm a bit down on Nebraska. They're all, they've had an incredible season, but they're trying to win their first March Madness game ever, and they really started to slide here down the stretch. They were undefeated until January 24th, and they have 6 losses now. So they definitely didn't end the season as they wanted to. And McNeese is McNeese. They're a good team. They're kind of reminded me of like the Wichita States and the VCUs of years past, where they're just a tough team no matter who they have when it comes to March. But that McNeese team is predicated on forcing turnovers, and it's really hard to do that against Tyler Tanner and Duke Miles. I think it's likely we'll get a Vanderbilt Florida rematch. And honestly, I like the Gators' chances there. I was at that Vanderbilt-Florida game in the SEC tournament, and I'm telling you, the amount of times I turned to people next to me and just went, wow, there's nothing you can do there. It's just Vandy's night. They're hitting everything. I do like the Gators' chances in a revenge spot there.
Again, Max Barr, host of the Southeastern 16 podcast, with all the money and resources dedicated to the NCAA tournament, to the committee, and to put this bracket together. Max, explain to me how we can live in a world where the Houston Cougars can have de facto home games in the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight. I understand that they're not the, quote, host school, whatever that means. But, I mean, look, are they doing Kelvin Sampson a solid here? Because to me, if you go into that committee room, there's just no way you can put Houston in the South region knowing the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight is in Houston. I cannot believe they did that.
Yeah, you always get one of those setups where the host team you end up getting a home game for another team in that region. Last year it happened to Houston in the other direction. They had to play Purdue in Indianapolis in their region in the Sweet 16, and that game was a 62-60 barn burner. So next, come next year, and they get that favor handed back to them by they get the home Sweet 16 in the Elite Eight games. There's always something that shakes out that way, but I really don't put as much weight into it as most people do. If you looked at last year's Houston-Purdue game, you probably had a lot of people saying they're not going to go to Indianapolis and beat Purdue in a de facto home game. In these tournaments, the way the ticket sales go out, I don't think it's going to be that much of a difference. As much as it does benefit Houston, I don't think as much as people are making it out to be.
I do hope we can preview that next week with you if Florida advances, because I do think it'll probably be Florida and Houston. Although Illinois, Vanderbilt could certainly have something to say about that, even maybe in North Carolina. When you look around the conference, Max, Arkansas, a lot of people are looking at them, saying they have a real gripe playing on Sunday for the SEC title and then having to go to Portland, Oregon for a Thursday first-round game. Alabama, they have off-court issues all of a sudden. When you look around the conference outside of Florida and Vanderbilt, who are the most likely teams to make it to the second weekend?
Well, I'll be honest. I'm not too confident in the SEC outside of the South. The thing with Arkansas is I think they are the best chance. You're getting a Wisconsin team potentially, or High Point. High Point's one of the shortest 5-12 spreads. I believe it's at 9.5. I would say Arkansas has the best chance. That Wisconsin-Arkansas game is going to be a barn burner. Those are two really good offenses that don't play a ton of defense. And for Alabama, I am not too high on them now without Aiden Holloway. It was already an Alabama team that struggled to defend and just kind of relied on outscoring teams. And I don't really like their chances there. Hofstra's one of the best 13 seeds in the tournament. And if they even get by Texas Tech or Akron, then you got to face a number 1 seed in Michigan. And Tennessee, with Nate Immense injury, You got to play a really good Virginia team that has a ton of rim protection and 7-footers. I'll be honest, outside of the Vanderbilt, Florida potential to get to the Elite Eight Final Four, I really don't think the SEC is going to see much success.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Again, 6 Sweet 16 teams last year, 2 in the Final Four, and then obviously Florida, who won the title. 10 in this year, but there's not a lot of optimism. Does Kentucky have to worry about getting out of round number 1? I see a lot of people picking Santa Clara there.
Yeah, I mean, Santa Clara is a really good team, and they have an NBA level talent as a freshman, Alan Graves. There's an interesting stat when Santa Clara holds teams under 59% from 2 on the season, they're 23-1. So they have some stuff working for them. I'm going to go with Kentucky in that game. I think they can get to the free throw line and attack some of the lack of depth of Santa Clara, but people are 100% right for liking the Broncos in this situation. They're a good team.
And then finally, just for these parts, last question. We like to rip on Mike White a little bit. Obviously, it did not work for him in Gainesville. To his credit, he gets back in the NCAA tournament, but he's in one of those dreaded 8-9 games with Georgia taking on St. Louis. Will Georgia get out of round 1?
I believe they will, but they're going to need a good three-point shooting day to do so. St. Louis is a team that started the season as hot as anyone in the country and really started to slide here in late February and early March with multiple double-digit losses on the road. They've been slipping up away from home. So I think if Georgia gets a good three-point shooting night from Cannon Catchings and some of their auxiliary guys, they win this thing, but St. Louis is definitely game here.
Max, give us a number. 10 teams out of the SEC are in the field of 68. If you and I talk next week, how many teams in the SEC will be in the Sweet 16?
I anticipated a question similar to this, and I would probably set that line as 3.5, juiced slightly to the over. I think you get Florida and Vanderbilt. I'm pretty confident in them. And if you don't get Vanderbilt, I think you get in Arkansas. So I think you get a solid 2 teams into the Sweet 16 no matter what. And then you bank on maybe, hopefully, a Tennessee can get there. Maybe a Georgia, Kentucky, or Texas A&M can pull off a second-round upset. I'm going to say 3, and I'm hoping there's more.
And I'll tell you this, you know what the national narrative will be, obviously, and you guys will be fighting this narrative on your podcast. If 7 teams get eliminated on opening weekend, there will be a narrative very negatively about the SEC.
There will be, but I have a feeling that's how it's going to shake out.
Max Barr of the Southeastern 16 podcast. Max, tell the good folks here in Jacksonville about your podcast, and I can only imagine the amount of content you and Blake Lovell are going to have here over the coming days.
Oh, yeah, you can find us at Southeastern 16 on YouTube. We already have predictions for Hawaii, Arkansas, Texas, NC State tonight, all the SEC games. We're going to be pumping out content this week. It's the best week of the year.
Max, I know you're busy, man. Really appreciate the time. I hope we're talking next week.
I'm looking forward to it, Hack. Thanks as always.
And thank you to Max Barr, the host of the Southeastern 16 podcast, for joining us tonight here on Hacker After Dark. The NCAA tournament is underway. A couple of games tonight in Dayton. Now, Florida Gator fans, tomorrow in Dayton, you're going to find out who you're going to play on Friday night. Tomorrow you have Prairie View and Lehigh, and, of course, the winner of that game will get Florida Friday night in Tampa. So if you're a Gator fan, you want to do a little scouting, I guess, you'll be able to see your opponent play tomorrow as you get the winner of Prairie View and Lehigh. And then Florida plays Friday night. Of course, you'll hear that game right here on 10:10 a.m. Myself and Rick Ballou will both be on location Thursday night and Friday night. Mr. Chubby's in Ponte Vedra on Thursday night for End of the Night with Rick Ballou and for us here on Hacker After Dark. And then Friday, we're in my neck of the woods over in the Mandarin area off Old St. Augustine at Top Dog Tavern, again, from 6 o'clock until 10 o'clock for all the NCAA tournament action. So mark your calendars and come out and join Rick and myself for those broadcasts on Thursday night and Friday night. So as you can imagine, a lot of Gator and NCAA tournament talk. We certainly spent some time on the Jaguars as well. Week 1 of NFL free agency in the rearview mirror. Although seemingly every day a lot of things happen, including today with Jalen Waddle being traded from Miami to Denver. Miami gets back a first-round pick, a couple of mid-round selections as well, as the news continues to be pretty ferocious every day in the National Football League. Well, that will just about do it, man. Very, very busy Tuesday night edition of Hacker After Dark. We certainly appreciate you guys hanging out with us here on 1010XL and on 92.5 FM, and we do have a ton of people to thank. Again, Max Barr, host of the Southeastern 16 podcast. Really appreciate his time for joining us earlier this evening. Likewise, Neil Blackman of Saturday Down South and the Florida Basketball Hour podcast, as Neil is one of the best when it comes to talking Gator hoops, and we appreciate Neil taking time out for us to talk about the issues Florida had in Nashville and how those could be corrected as their NCAA tournament does get underway Friday night in Tampa. And then back in hour number one, my buddy John Shipley, Jaguars on SI. Boy, John does a terrific job covering the Jacksonville Jaguars. He has had a ton of content since this offseason began, and we certainly appreciate John Shipley for taking time out for us this evening. Now, we will be back tomorrow night on a Wednesday, and we will do it all over again beginning at 8 o'clock. Aaron Williams was your producer tonight. Aaron, great job as always. I'm the hacker Ryan Green. And again, Jacksonville, thank you for spending part of your Tuesday evening with us right here on Hacker After Dark, on 1010XL, and on 92.5 FM. So for all of us here on HAD, have a terrific remainder of your Tuesday evening, and we will talk to you again tomorrow night on a Wednesday beginning at 8 o'clock. Until then, good night, Jacksonville.